Welcome back to the CompTIA Security Plus Certification Session 9. Today, we are going to talk about the configuration management. So, the configuration management is basically a practice of systematically handling the changes to a system. Here, we main focus on the integrity, consistency, and the traceability over time. This is very important because whenever there is a configuration changes into the system, integrity is very important. What is going to happen over time? Next thing is the consistency. What if we are changing a parameter into any of the configuration item? Configuration item could be a very new term for you. Let's take a simple. For example, you have a router, and in case you have changed IP address of the router, if you do not record it, the next person comes to your organization, he may also change the IP address next time. So there should be a system, a tool where you can have these records, and it is important that a person checks it before he wants to make any changes further. So the consistency is very important, that if anything is going to happen into the configuration, what they are and why we are doing it. Here also comes the picture of the traceability, that if somebody has changed an IP address into the system, are we going to track it back in the time? If not, what happens, like if any new person comes, obviously, in the organization nobody works for 20 years. People can work but usually they do not. People are like coming and going, and while the organization maintains these records in a service management tool, any of the tool they can use. One of the very popular tool is like ServiceNow. Okay, so they are using that, and all the records are placed in that ServiceNow. So if you have changed an IP address, the record will be, details will be there onto the system there, that okay, that IP address has been changed. What was the reason for that one? That okay, why have we changed it? So next person comes, he have some background that why this has been changed. Even if it is required, we can go ahead and do that. But at least he has some background that why we do it, what was the reason, who has approved it, do we have any possibility to reach someone who is available into the system. So that's what you can do over time. Next goal of this configuration management is to minimize risk, because if you do the things without having the background of the system, chances are there that you may corrupt the system, you may put down the system, or it's a failure. So by doing the configuration management, doing a very proper and systematic way, we minimize the risk. In a very simple terms, you can think of like CM as a keeping everything as system organized and controlled, especially when changes happen. Configuration management can be applied to the softwares, like you are changing the code of any of the software, or you are moving the versions from one version to other version. It is applicable to the IT infrastructure. It could be to the servers, networks, firewalls, routing devices, anywhere. Products. So here we are talking about the hardware and components. So hardware components, like we are not going to use like change the entire component or the hardware. So if your hardware is a modular, so the modules can be changed. If you are changing the modules, then we keep that into the under the configuration management, that why that module has been changed, are we upgrading it, has that got corrupted, why we are doing it. So we keep these records to sustain and as a part of configuration management. And obviously what we are going to do, we are minimizing the risk by doing that one. There are some key components here. One of them is a configuration item, that is CI. I will explain this in the next slide. Version control is from which version to which version we are going, and what is the requirement or purpose of that. Next thing is the change management. So this I'm going to cover in the next topic. It's like session 10 that I will cover on the change management. Configuration status accounting. So if there is a configuration changes are happening, or there is what is the configuration right now, what's going to happen there. We keep that accounting. We please keep the records of that what is going to happen. And once we are keeping the records, then we do the configuration audits, that if that has been configuration differed from here to there, then where the systematic change, process followed, have we followed the standards and ways of working correctly, that approach we followed over there. So that's why we the configuration audits are very important here. So all the things are like very they are the key components of the configuration management. Now go to the next slide, which is talks about the key elements. So the configuration management elements, there are like multiple elements of this configuration management, but I have taken two of the important one. One of them is the configuration item, that is a CI. This is being treated as a single set of entity that needs to be identified, tracked, and goes through the life cycle of the configuration management. We can understand with the examples. Let's say you have a router in place. If you have a router and there is some issue on that router, because of that somebody raised an incident. If they have raised an incident, then what we are going to do, whenever anybody is working on that incident, they will try to keep the records that on which device they are working. So what happens that if you have any router, what we usually do, we put some unique name of that router, right? So let's say we put like router for the RT1234. This is a unique ID of that router. Category we can put set as a router, but we have a unique ID for this router. Now every time whenever we do any activity on that router, we are going to link it. So for example, we are working in any of the incident basically one record here. And once we are working on that incident, we will reference, there is an option to refer that on which configuration item we are working on to, or which configuration item, you can say the which item we are working on to, or which equipment we are working on to. Every time whenever we are working, we will keep a record, we will reference it from that, okay, that we are working based on that router on this incident. Same as that, if there is change or the configuration changes happening on that, we will always reference or attach it to the configuration item that where we are working it. The benefit of this keeping that CI or configuration item, that once you open that CI, you can say the configuration item, you have all the list of the incidents number and the changes that has happened to that configuration item. Now what's happened that you have a clear picture that okay, this incident happened, then we went for this incident, then we made this configuration change, because of that configuration change we triggered this incident, then we went for this one. You have like clear picture flow wise available in the configuration item. So that's why we put the as a configuration item always you are using in the configuration management. And this configuration item can be a server, can be a router, can be an operating system, can be a database, or in fact an API and some other thing. Whatever we want, we can make that as a configuration item, which is configurable and owned by the your organization. Right. So there's a chances of the configuration that's we're going to make change, and that is owned by the organization. That's we are going to make it as a configuration item. So it becomes very easy to track what are the activities has happened to that equipment. Now we talk about the baseline configuration. So baseline configuration is basically you can understand like a basic configuration whenever we are trying to build a system. So in the short, at the end, I have written the baseline configuration is used as a basis for future builds and releases. So let's say you want to deploy a server and you should have like some requirement has been mentioned by the requester, but where to start? Where should you start? What configuration must have? So what we have, like we have a dummy template type of things available there. We spin there, we put the configuration server here. Now your server basic server is ready. Now you can customize that server according to your requirement, that okay, that server should have this much of RAM, this should have the hard disk, this many of processors, whatever XYZ values you have. Now you can change according to your requirement. So that's what is the baseline configuration that is basically required, the basic one, to an equipment to function it. This is very essential for the routers, switches, any firewall, or any APIs or databases. Basic setup is ready, and now you do some minor changes, and it is like system ready. Otherwise, if you do not have any baseline configuration, everything you have to write it on your own one by one. You have to refer different places and do that. So it becomes complex changes, or the complex process becomes very complex. Next thing is talks about the flow, right? So this is talking about the configuration management workflow. So let's say you have some configuration changes proposed. First of all, we are going to identify that what are the configuration changes we have to do it. Identify, collect all the requirements that you want to do it. Then we baseline it, that okay, we have this X, we are going to Y, what are the things should happen. Accordingly, we map it according to our requirement. Then we go for the request and review. So this request and review can be broken in the two boxes, but I have taken in single. So it's like you rest now, whatever the configuration changes you are going to make it, let's review it. That what are you proposing? What are the configuration changes you are going to deploy it? Once you review internally, we are not going for like anyone external. We just review on your own, or in fact, like you have within your team, you review with your peer that okay, this I'm like going to change it. Is it okay? What's your feedback? If we are happy, your peer is happy, then we are going to request it further. It goes for the approval. Approval can be two types. It could be a technical approval if it is required, and then we have the business level approval. So technical level approval, they talk about the what are the things that you are going to make changes, and then is that going to work properly or not? Are there any drawbacks that if you make that change, something else is not going to break? So that technical perspective, that person will review it, who is an expert in the technical perspective. Next thing is about the business approval, that if any cost is involved in doing that change, that person will approve it. At what time you are doing it, like is that not going to impact the interest of the users, like you are doing in the daytime, but actually that should be done in the low business time. For example, night time, if you do in the daytime, it's like impact. Or sometimes, let's say you are working for the US and you deploy in the uh, nighttime, that time there's day for them. So that's, you have to take care of the business pro, that who is managing that and what's the interest of that, who is running that equipment. So we take that approval from them. If they are happy, times, technical approvals, what are the pros and cons, everybody reviewed, then we are going to implement that. Once we implement, then implementation is like easy, because whatever the steps you have written, you just simply implement it. Make sure that you have the right access for that place. Once we have implemented, we will verify that okay, whatever the changes has been done, that is according to the plan, or has there any deviations on that one. Once the verification is done, we document that change. So usually the documentation is already in place if you are using the any of the service management tool, ITSM tool we are using it, then it is already documented. But in case it is not, you can document in the different place wherever your organization is referring to, or where you should put all the values over there. Later on, once your change is implemented, then you have to monitor for certain period. Sometimes it is required to monitor, sometimes it is not required. For example, you are going for an upgrade. If you go for an upgrade, you want to monitor the like CPU and memory uses are perfectly well or not, how many connections are being made to your servers, are they performing, are there any connections being dropped, so, or memory leakage is there if you're deploying any software code. So accordingly you have to monitor for certain time. The time can be like 24 hours, 48 hours, 1 week, whatever the time or the case you are deploying it to, but at least minimum 24 hour we must monitor. In case you are very sure that nothing going to wrong, it's fine. You cannot monitor. It's always recommended that once you deploy the changes, you are monitoring for certain period of interval. That gives you the confidence that okay, whatever changes I have made, they are perfect and that's right in place. All right. So now next thing is about the automated provisioning. So automated provisioning, from the name itself, it is very clear. We are going to process of configuring and building IT and OT systems through a predefined and automated procedures without human intervention. Like we have written some sort of script, we have created some sort of tool, and that is running in background and that is doing our job. This reduces the probability of the human error because we are human beings. We may make mistakes, not always, but we may make mistakes. So it reduces that chances. Don't think of like AI, right? AI is taking your jobs. Similar to this one. But it's okay even AI cannot take your job. Always skill yourself. If you're skilling yourself, even if one job is gone, another one you can take it. Because whatever the monotonous job you are doing it, just leave that part. Take something innovative. That's the idea. Keep learning. That's the agenda of this one. Now, what's the benefit of this automated provisioning? First one is a faster setup. Obviously, like job of hours can be done in the minutes. Consistency. No human errors. Whatever we are deploying in the same thing in every server. So, for example, we are changing a TLS version from 1.1 to 1.2 in every server. We can write in a script, and every server we can change that value. Nothing going wrong. Like if human is doing, chances are there they select 1.3 or 1.0 or miss something. Like because we are doing manually, we are error prone. Next thing is scalable. Create many systems quickly. Obviously, one person will, if there is one person doing it, he will do one by one. But if you have written a script, it can be sent to multiple systems altogether. Cost efficient. Obviously, if you have written a script and sending the command to the multiple servers, one person can do that job. Otherwise, one multiple persons like doing logging system one by one and then doing the job. A little bit complex. Supports DevOps practices. So DevOps is like very easy practice. If you don't know, that's fine. I'm not going to explain it because if I explain, you get confused more. Okay. So if you know it, that's fine. If not, ignore it. Just like if you want to memorize, you can memorize that. Okay. It supports the DevOps practice. That's it. All right. So that's it from here. And I think I have one important slide for you that says thank you. So thank you everyone. See you in the next session. Till that, bye bye. And if you have any question or you need an explanation, feel free to write in the comment section. I'll be happy to respond you back on that. Thank you. Let's meet in the next topic. That is our change management. I'm seeing from the last three sessions, but definitely this is going to be change management this time. All right. Bye bye.